Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
Looks like we are recording. Yay. Okay, so over on Evolutionary Arts, we last did one about an extinction level event that was underway. Perhaps, again, in this world, it is just a tangled, messy web of deception and lies and fake news.
Well, it's just as good as any old soap opera out there, the reality of things.
Yes, EEARTS, we were just talking about the symbolism behind the Titanic sub. And I didn't even know there was, but there is a Titanic wiki. And we got a Titanic wiki over there just to set the story straight according to the, power structure that is. And it's amazing that AI doesn't realize that when they do a little wiki, they're kind of giving you a clue that there's something to look a little deeper into.
Well, they're definitely kind of tattling in a reverse kind of way.
Yes, and please do check in over at Heart's Home, where we did a prayer of intention to remove the darkness that has been plaguing the earth. And a few days ago, we did that one about what's going on with the Schumann resonance. Over 10,000 views. That's by far the most on Heart's Home ever. Evolutionary had a video that almost did 1 million views at one point in time before all the censorship came in. All warfare is based on deception. Therefore, when capable, feign incapacity. When active, inactivity. When near, make it appear that you are far away. When far away, that you are to lure him, feign disorder, and strike him. When he concentrates, prepare against him. Where he is strong, avoid him. Anger his general and confuse him. Pretend inferiority and encourage his arrogance. Sun Tzu, The Art of War. This is, must read for anybody that is interested in military history. And, a lot of this has been taken and basically put into play in the business world as well. Miyamoto Musashi's famous book, Go-Rin no Sho, the Book of Five Rings. Again, a military classic turned into a business classic. So when we see everything that's going on in the world, let's keep all this in mind and see what we can feel into the energy. Because again, everything that we view is all distortion and lies.
The art of war, you got to really wonder, well, the U.S. right now doesn't look super strong. Our leader doesn't look super confident. I don't know. Are we really, really in trouble, or are we really, really doing good? Hard to say.
Yes, well, we're going to be really focusing in on Russia on this one, as well as there's a lot of stuff that's coming out right now, which is very, very interesting. But first, we're going to look over here, and we see the Supreme Court in an 8-1 vote allows the Biden administration to limit immigration arrests. Yes, because Texas and Louisiana had brought a lawsuit, basically because we all know what's happening with Texas and the border. That's been a contentious issue for many years now. And of course, what do we have? We have tens of millions of people that have entered the U.S. illegally in, perhaps the last decade. And since the 46th administration has come into power, the vast majority. I mean, it's just been absolute insanity, really, really obvious to many, many people that there's something very, very nefarious underway, absolutely a Trojan horse event, leaving the doors wide open for the robbers to enter. And that doesn't mean that all migrants and immigrants are robbers. No. But again, there's always those that take the opportunity, even if 95% are legitimately people that are looking to better their lives. That leaves you 5% of tens of millions that are here to do something else. That is a huge army of people. So again, the Supreme Court upholding 46th administration. You have Matt Gaetz, who wants authorization to take out Chinese assets in Cuba. So he wants Biden He wants to give Biden the authority to intervene militarily in Cuba, take out Chinese assets that are already allegedly on the island. Obviously, again, this is another World War III action. And, again, the power structure wants to bring that about. So here you have somebody that's been very, very vocal against the 46th administration the entire time. And, of course, billions and billions and billions. And you can't count the money that's gone to the war in Ukraine, which many Republicans have been for and some have been against. When you look at it, the military-industrial complex is getting absolutely even filthier, Rich, than it already is. It's a sad situation for humanity. And we are rapidly escalating into the most major events of this time frame, rapidly. Here you have U.S. Senators Lindsey Graham and Senator Blumenthal introduce a bipartisan resolution declaring Russia's use of nuclear weapons or destruction of the occupied Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant in Ukraine to be an attack on NATO, requiring the invocation of NATO Article 5, so you would have a full-fledged WW3 underway. As we know, Russia has placed nukes over in Belarus. Also, it's been recently stated that a vast number of the hypersonic missiles that can strike before you have any chance to stop them from striking have been put into service now. So, this is, again, we're getting really close. We are so close, Again, be as prepared as you can be, because we may find that we are again without the grid for weeks, days, weeks, months in certain areas. And we understand fully that they control us through the technology. But we also understand fully that they've done studies in which they say that if we had 6 months without the grid, 90% of the population would disappear. Well, those DEA-GEL numbers, that time frame's getting close. And they expect 2/3 of Americans to disappear come January 2025. So we should be well aware of all the stuff that they've put out there for us. It's all out there for us to notice, whether we notice or not.
Indeed.
UN Security Council calling an emergency meeting today at 5 o'clock to discuss the threat of a terrorist attack. Again, this is what we were talking about in that previous article. Yeah, it's going to an all-new level. And then we have this twist, and this is why I was putting that in there about Sun Tzu and the Art of War. Here you have the head of Wagner Group, swords for hire. These are just hired killers, plain and simple, accusing Putin's military leaders of genocide against Russians. Interesting here. Wagner Group leader Yevgeny Prigozhin on Friday accused Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu and Chief of General Staff Valery Gerasimov of murdering Russian citizens amid Russia's ongoing war in Ukraine. Yeah, and, there is an attempt to make it look like there's perhaps a coup that is starting. Is this coup real? That's the question. Is it real, or is this the art of war?
Yeah, good questions.
And here we go. So you have all different sources coming out of the woodwork talking about this. As you see this, the little Russian flag. Russian army attacks Wagner because they've been working together. Obviously, a coup may be underway. So a Wagner military base had been attacked by the Russian army, saying the Russian army launched rocket attacks on our rear camps. Huge number of soldiers died. We will decide how we respond to this atrocity. The next step is ours. So, threatening a military coup? Perhaps. Or is this just a ploy to feign chaos when really there's going to be a different type of attack going on. Multiple sources claiming that emergency statements being prepared by Russia's Ministry of Defense. Local sources reporting Ukrainian armed forces fired a British Storm Shadow missile and it struck the Chongar Strait Bridge in Crimea, which has been under Russian control since 2014. And again, Russia has annexed this area. So Russia just threatened to strike Ukrainian decision-making centers if Ukraine fired on Crimea. Prepare for escalation. And as you see, TV channels were hacked in Russia. And Prigozhin's audio recordings were played, and he did sound angry. Very, very, kind of reminded me of a lot of the speeches that Hitler had given back in World War II. It had that energy to it. Emergency security plan is reported to have been activated in Moscow in response to Prigozhin's rebellion, according to a Telegram channel with apparent links to the Russian security forces. Imminent attack on Moscow appears to be anticipated, and Putin's cortege is headed to the Kremlin. Over here, the Russian National Guard appears to be ready to begin its deployment in the Rostov region of southwestern Russia with armored vehicles and BTRs reportedly being seen in locations around the city. You know, we had just seen this in so many locations in the U.S. And, Idaho, California, etc., etc. Yeah, some of the videos were probably old, but again, the whole question is, what's coming next? What is coming next? Because what is happening is that the people of the world are waking up. They're waking up to the bigger picture. That the controllers, what do? Constantly, they start wars. They keep us fighting ourselves. And there's been numerous psychics, clairvoyants, prophets, whatever words you want to use, that have seen this time period and ultimately say that really, when does the Third World War end? It ends when the people overthrow the power structure. That's when it ends. Could we possibly be there yet? Well, not if the timelines that they saw are correct, because we really haven't had that direct warfare on, say, UK soil, US soil. We haven't seen it in France and Germany. So either the timelines changed, and we can't change timelines. They're not set in stone. They are not set in stone. So we can't change timelines. Or this is really the beginning of something different. This is really kind of giving you the impression that the civil unrest is about to maybe end up with a coup in Russia, and then maybe things will calm down. But is that really the case?
I kind of look to a more local source to see and feel what's going on. And, I kind of look to myself and my own body, or I look to other people that we're close to and we work with on a regular basis and see how they're doing. And what I have noticed is there has been a bit of an upset, with people finding their space and trying to get grounded and having either themselves struggle or people around them having big struggles. So when you see it that local, at that level, as above, so below, you can kind of span things out, and you can see that there's probably some kind of a bigger upset coming on a larger scale if it's like that on a smaller scale.
Yeah, and it was said that there was this strange consciousness uptick right before 9/11, and we looked to what we were talking about on Heart's Home. And what was that we were seeing happen with the Schumann? And then we have all these different sources. I mean, just people, are they people? Coming out of the woodwork and saying, oh, that was just a blip. That was a technical error. That was, again, they're trying to say there was nothing there. And so many of the accounts, like half the accounts on Twitter, are not even people. Half are not even people. These are just bot accounts. And so, again, it's a case where you got to learn how to feel into something, discern. You're never going to get it right using your left brain. You got to feel it. What does the energy say to you? So we are very, very close to some much bigger events happening is most definitely something we could take away from this. So the Citadel protocol has been implemented in Moscow and Rostov tonight. The Citadel protocols entail full mobilization of police and taking charge, guarding of key communication and law enforcement centers. It's going to be a long, tense night over there in Russia. Shooting reported in Moscow. We hear shooting near a metro station. Now, is this just a random act, or is this a shooting between, rival units? Is it a shooting between Wagner and the Russian army? Is it something else? Is it some sort of sleeper cells, or is it just random crime? The National Guard of Russia, also known as the Rosgvardia, and I probably really butchered that, has reportedly been placed into high alert status, with mobilization orders having been received by the Russian Ministry of Defense. So you can see this is just like going crazy right now. It is going crazy. Something is going on in Russia. And again, since December, we've gotten from the guides that this nuclear power plant over in Zaporizhia is target number one. Since December, since they really started talking about it, the guides have said this is something they are intent on triggering exactly this, a catastrophe. Because again, if they know that any NUKEs, big NUKEs they launch are going to be taken out by very advanced technology that they cannot match, even the Anunnaki cannot match, then they're going to do something else. And this is just the way they are.
Indeed.
And, oops, that's something for a future one there. Okay. Uh-oh. Yeah, that's on a different, boy, he looks bad.
Yeah.
There will be no presidential elections in Ukraine till the end of the war. Okay. Yeah. Well, see, the war gives you a cover for 1,000,001 things. Mm-hmm. Everything can be hidden at wartime. As you see, Russia's FSB thwarts plot to smuggle radioactive cesium to Ukraine. On June 23rd, Russia's Federal Security Service announced that it had detained 5 people who were trying to buy 1 kilogram of radioactive cesium-137 for $3.5 million on behalf of the citizens of Ukraine. So again, the vast majority of the public, I think, has at least heard of the term false flag. I think now, don't you think? They might not agree that 9/11 was a false flag attack, or maybe they haven't heard of the many other ones that we know were actual false flags, or the plans to create a false flag in Miami during the Cuban Missile Crisis. But at least most people, I think, have heard of the term. See, it's a slow awakening, this process. It does take time.
Well, and you got to look at the false flag and understand that it's not that it's false. It's a redirection.
Yeah, it's all about giving a reason to do something that they want to have done, like NATO missile strikes. Inviting retaliation. Yeah, give them everything but the kitchen sink, and at some point, maybe the other side will make that move that you really want them to move, so then you could go full-fledged in with what you want to do. And, here is a summary of the latest events in Kosovo, because, again, Kosovo is interesting. It is the area, Serbia, Kosovo, that Alois Ermeiler said would be the actual trigger of the war, and that when some sort of act of terrorism and assassination happened, then it's immediately on. It's like immediately, boom. Then the war is full on. And then Russia doesn't just go to Kiev. It goes right through Ukraine and keeps going. Now, that's probably also help from China directly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It would be pretty obvious. So you have the imminent danger of escalation in Kosovo following a series of arrests and Kosovo's armed forces buildup in Mitrovica. In the wake of continued arrests by Kosovo police today in North Mitrovica, where more than one Serb was arrested, coupled with the buildup of armed Kosovo security forces in South Mitrovica from the early morning, seemingly ready to suppress the Serbian-inhabited north, there is mounting threat of a dramatic escalation in Kosovo. The chief of staff of the Serbian army, in an extraordinary public address this afternoon, called upon the KFOR to take immediate urgent measures to avert potential violence that could lead to unpredictable outcomes. Belgrade has previously expressed that it would be difficult to passively overlook another assault on the Kosovo Serbs akin to the 2004 Albanian riots in Kosovo. That violent outbreak resulted in the death of 17 individuals, displacement of 4,000 Serbs, destruction of 35 Serbian Orthodox churches. And, this is an area that has really not had peace in hundreds of years. And why is that? It's tribal to a degree. It's also religious to a very, very high degree. And again, we are divided by these religions. Can you imagine what's going to be like the aha moment when something happens, like maybe disclosure, and you realize that the majority of the belief systems on the planet have been inaccurate? People have put their faith in things that were basically constructed in order to utilize them as a tool to keep people divided. That dogmatic, we are right, you are wrong. No, we are right, you are wrong. We're going to heaven, you're going to hell. No, we're going to heaven, you're going to hell. This has all been utilized to keep us fighting each other, while the power and the control of the few gets ever stronger over the many.
I know, you can have two people with two different, books in their hands, and one can say, hey, look, you're going to hell, and the other one can say the same thing. Hey, look, you're going to hell too. So, I mean, who's winning there? Who is winning with that?
And meanwhile, those aspects of those belief systems were handed out by the same hands when you get down to the shadowy groups that really orchestrate all this darkness from the shadows. Here, you take this one. Here, you take that one. You're in the right to the group on the left. No, you're in the right to the group on the right. Then nudge them off to go fight each other. This is exactly what they do. Here you have somebody confronting the White House National Security Council coordinator about 46 and his son and the dealings and the corruption. And he simply says, you know what? I'm not talking about this. I'm out of here. And he left. He just left. IRS whistleblowers released new bombshell evidence against 46's family, the DOJ and AG Garland. Bombshells. Joe Biden's DOJ buried evidence of these things, these crimes. And wait till the crimes against humanity are just obvious, because they're ongoing, and these crimes against humanity have gone on for thousands of years. And it is mostly the same families, really, the same intertwining. Oh, of course, they'll always bring new people into the mix. They're always looking for people that will do anything, throw the rest of humanity under the bus in order to better themselves. And we see those people that do this day in and day out. So many of them became prominent people during the plague upon the land. And now they're feeling a little squirrely because the Great Awakening is happening. And so, they're very uncomfortable and they're trying to cover their tracks. It's inevitable. It's inevitable. So we have to be very aware that these desperate people will do desperate things, including desperately trying to create the most destructive war the world has ever seen.
And we were kind of relating it to a really bad relationship earlier, when it's at the very, very end and there's absolutely nothing to lose. That's where it can get the ugliest.
They will try to keep you spellbound with their magic.
Indeed, what is this alien force going on here?
It's all like the Wizard of Oz. I mean, in the old days and even today, that was an act of God. It could only be God that said this or did that. See, it was God. No, it's technology. Because, yes, there is a creator, but that creator is benevolent. That creator is not jealous and wouldn't say, I am a jealous God. I mean, that's not the creator of this universe. And it shouldn't take that much discernment to understand that. It is fear-based conditioning. Don't fear the Perrier.
Indeed.
As always, guys, thanks for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. Make sure you are subscribed with a little bell click to all 3 channels. God bless and namaste.
Namaste.